Dad, do you know why they are talking about engagement all of a sudden? Jack's father, Dalton, asked Victor. What's there to be worried about? This is a good thing for our family. Maybe we may rise and be able to compete with some families in the capital. Victor replied with a smile plastered on his face. The moment that Dalton heard his father's words, he was at first surprised, then the next moment he was ecstatic. This was a great opportunity for his Alfonso family. After all, a member of a big family wanted to marry one of the sons or daughters of Alfonso family. Even if it won't be one of his children, or even if it was his brother's child, he would still benefit at the end of it as he was the current family head. With the support of such a big family, he could start influencing the capital city. Furthermore, with such a connection, he could start expanding the influence of the Fonso group. As such, the competition that he would be experiencing from other families from other cities would be greatly diminished if not removed. As he thought of this, a smile gradually appeared on his face. He could not wait to know who was going to get married or being married. The other party had just stated that they were coming for an engagement. But till this moment, they didn't know if the one that was coming with the old man was a boy or a girl. It was at this moment that Dalton finally understood why his father Victor had summoned all the members of Alfonso family to come back. Furthermore, he had made sure to summon back even those that had gone to other cities, as long as they had not married or been married. That's right. Only those that were in marriage were spared from this. Although there were some of the family members that had been engaged already, the old man didn't care about it. Engagements could be broken as long as that person was selected by the old man that was coming. Are you sure that all the preparations are in position? Victor suddenly asked, bringing Dalton out of his thoughts. Yes, father. I have already made all the arrangements that are necessary. I know how important this occasion is, so I won't mess up. Dalton replied confidently. Victor nodded in satisfaction while looking at the members of the Alfonso family that were standing with him at the entrance. He suddenly frowned as he looked into the crowd. Upon noticing the frown on Victor's face, Dalton asked, Father, is something wrong? At this moment, Victor shifted his gaze towards Dalton as he asked with confusion, Where is that little brat, Jack? Upon hearing this question, Dalton's heart skipped a beat. When he made a decision to expel Jack from the Alfonso family, he hadn't asked his father about his opinion. His father was away at that time, and only came back the previous night with the news about the engagement. He had planned to tell him later, but he had forgotten about it with the news of the engagement coming in. It was only at this moment that he was reminded about it. After hesitating for a moment, he replied without hiding a thing. He told the old man about everything that had happened since Jack's departure. The more the old man listened, the colder his expression became. It was a sure bet that his anger was soaring at the moment. Why did you come to such a decision without consulting me? Victor roared at this moment. This roar immediately attracted the attention of the other members of the Alfonso family. But although their attention was attracted by the shout, it had successfully repelled them as their bodies tried to move as far away as possible from the old man. None of them didn't know about the old man's temper. As long as he was angered, he would turn the house upside down till the moment that his anger would cool down. Facing the angry old man, even Dalton was flustered. He took a deep breath, but he didn't dare to speak a word. He knew that the more he spoke, the more he would anger the old man. After ranting for a while, Victor calmed down. This was not just because of his anger had calmed down at the moment. It was simply because there were visitors, very important ones as a matter of fact, that were coming not long from that moment. Let us receive the guests first. After they leave, we will talk about this, Victor stated as he tried to retain his composure. Although he didn't like Jack, that didn't mean that it was to the extent of expelling him from the family. He was an Alfonso at the end of the day, and no matter what they did, if they took a DNA test, they would still find that he had the Alfonso bloodline. I want to see how he gets out of this now. He decisively expelled his own son out of the family just to maintain his reputation. Now that the old man is back, he sure is going to suffer. Oh, I can't wait for the time that the visitors will be leaving. At that time, there will be a good show to watch. At the side, those that were competing for the CEO position, or they didn't like Dalton, began murmuring to each other. It was only when Victor glared at them that they shrunk their necks and kept quiet. But the look of contempt as well as a look of expectation, didn't disappear from their faces. After all, this was one of the rare chances when the old man was angry at Dalton. So, they would make sure that they used it to the maximum possible. Just as the old man was about to berate them, a car's honking sound made him shift his attention towards the road that led towards the highway. There was a convoy of luxury cars coming towards the entrance of the Alfonso mansion. The old man immediately led the members of Alfonso family to go out and welcome the guests. They escorted the cars to the parking lot. There was a total of 6 cars, with the leading car being a Maybach GLS 600. The others were all Volkswagen Arteon. The moment that the doors of the Volkswagen Arteon opened, several bulky men in black suits and black glasses got out. There were about 20 of them present. 2 of them went forward and opened the doors of the back seat on each side, while the others stood in attention while observing the surroundings. Soon after that, an old man with gray hair alighted with his walking cane. The walking cane was exquisite as it had a raven head. The handle was silver in color, while the body was bronze. Just from a glance, one could tell that this walking cane was made from a special material. The old man's face showed that he was in his mid-70s in the least. But his walking posture, although slightly bent, was still energetic and domineering. The aura that was emitted by the old man would make all those that were looking at him feel both respect and fear towards him. Currently, the old man was wearing a white suit. He had a pair of brown shoes on. As he walked forward, the walking stick would occasionally knock onto the ground, making people tense, and sometimes their hearts would skip a beat. On the other side of the car, a young lady that seemed to be 18 or 19 years old alighted. She was a beauty with a rating of 91. Green hair that dropped to her shoulders, gray eyes that matched the old man's, as well as a good figure. As soon as she alighted, most of the males couldn't help but swallow their saliva loudly. The purple dress that she was wearing accentuated her figure so well in that even those that were nearing their 30s were mesmerized by her. Steve was amongst those that couldn't help but stare at her. But he knew his limits and managed to shift his gaze towards the side. After all, this wasn't a simple girl that he could hit on. But he thought of something. That was the fact that the two were here for an engagement. If they chose him, he would have this beauty to himself as his wife in the future. He straightened his posture and tried to make sure that he would stand out among the crowd of the youths that were waiting and watching with hints of greed in their eyes. The young lady walked towards the old man and held one of his arms as support. Although the old man was energetic, the lady seemed to be more concerned about him. The old man simply smiled as he rubbed her head. He really doted on this granddaughter of his. "Welcome, Master Alton, and young miss." Victor went forward as he gave the old man a bow. The other members of Alfonso family immediately followed the gesture as they greeted the duo. Alton nodded in satisfaction at the attitude that the family was showing. He rubbed the beard on his chin as he revealed a smile. He then waved his hand at Victor and the others. "No need to be so polite. No need to be so polite. You all can rise up." Victor and the others immediately rose, their upper bodies that were slightly bent. After that, they welcomed the old man and his granddaughter into the well-decorated mansion. After serving them with a cup of tea with a few snacks, Victor and the others waited patiently for the old man to speak. The boys were already looking at the old man with expectation in their eyes. Since there was only the old man and the girl, it was obvious that the one that was here for the engagement was the girl. So, the young men in the family were excited, waiting for the old man to say who she was getting engaged to. Upon seeing the expectant look of the crowd, Alton put the cup of tea on the table and spoke. "I guess you all know the reason for my visit today. So, I don't think that I need to repeat myself. As you can see, my granddaughter here is the one that is going to get engaged." Although the engagement was a decision made by Alton, none of the members of Alfonso family refuted, as they lost nothing at all. In fact, they would benefit a lot from this. "So, Master Alton, can you tell me to whom you wanted your granddaughter to be betrothed to?" Victor asked after the old man finished speaking. He too was quite expectant to see which of his grandchildren was going to be selected. Alton shifted his gaze to Dalton as he spoke with a smile on his face. "Your youngest son?" Alton shifted his gaze to Dalton as he spoke with a smile on his face. "Your youngest son?" Alton's words were like an explosive in the hearts of all those present. There was not a single person among them that didn't know the fact that Jack had been expelled from the family almost a week ago. And now, surprisingly, the person that was supposed to be engaged was the same person that they didn't like or had no impression about whatsoever. This came like a huge tide that swept away all the happiness and expectation that they had within them. They were currently in a dilemma on what to do now. Jack had already been expelled and was no longer considered a member of Alfonso family. If they said this to the old man, he would probably be furious with them and end up punishing this family of theirs by suppressing them. Or he might as well give up on the fact that he'd come here for an engagement. If he left, the easy path to success that was waving at them excitedly a moment ago would wave goodbye at them the next moment. This was something that they absolutely couldn't accept at all. On the other hand, if Jack came back and was engaged to the young lady here, he would definitely have power and be stronger than his father in terms of authority. And it would be no surprise that he would be the future family head of Alfonso family. In that case, all those that had been suppressing and mistreating him since childhood would surely face the music. After all, it was true that they had made his life difficult. At his age, all the young generation of the family had been given something to do. But Jack, on the other hand, was left alone. After graduation the previous 3 months, he was just there, idle or doing whatever he wanted. Of course, the whatever he wanted never included anything that involved Alfonso family's influence. In other words, whatever he was doing never concerned them. Now, if Jack really got engaged, he surely would be able to get back at them. Just this thought made them shiver. Alton and his granddaughter immediately noticed that something wasn't right with everyone's expression. This made them confused. Was there a problem with Jack, or had what he had just said not been heard? Victor panicked for a moment and stared at Dalton with a murderous gaze. Dalton, on the other hand, was already drenched in cold sweat. He had never cared about this son of his. He was the only one in the entire family that had suffered in the hands of fellow family members. Even during his childhood, he was never there for him. Jack had depended on his mother till he matured early. Now, as he left the family, Dalton decided to use this chance to expel him from the family to clear his image off of the dark spot. Who knew that this was going to be his biggest mistake as well as regret? The black spot was actually a big opportunity for him. Now, not only would he have to face his father's wrath, but he had to look for a method to bring Jack back to the family. What's going on here? Where's Jack? Alton couldn't help but ask at this moment. His expression didn't look that good at all. After all, according to what he had thought, the moment that he mentioned that it was Jack who would have his granddaughter as his fiancée, not only would Jack get excited, but his father would be extremely happy and proud. In the end, everyone's expression was completely opposite of how it was supposed to be. How could he not be furious considering the fact that even the one that was getting engaged with his granddaughter wasn't present at the scene? I'm sorry about that, Master Alton. The truth is that currently, Jack is out of the city. Victor managed to squeeze out a smile on his wrinkled old face that made him look ugly. Alton frowned the moment that he heard this. Even the lady beside him showed a disappointed expression at this moment. Alton wasn't from a big family for nothing. He had experienced a lot more to be able to maintain his family's position as one of the top families. So, he could tell at a glance that things were not that simple. Furthermore, he had already investigated about Jack the moment that his granddaughter mentioned about him. He found that the boy had good looks, a strong will, and was quite hardworking and smart. Apart from the issue of him not being treated well in the family, there was nothing that was wrong about Jack in the old man's eyes. The information that he had on him was till Sunday, the day before Jack left Crystal City. At that time, he thought that he had gathered enough information and decided to stop investigating him. Can he get here at a short time? Alton asked after noticing the disappointment on his granddaughter's face. He wanted to fulfill his granddaughter's wish, which was to marry Jack. He hadn't come to this decision without thinking things through. His granddaughter, whom he doted on so much, told him that she liked a young man that she had encountered before. She was serious about being married to him. As a result, he tried advising her not to be rash. In the end, due to her stubborn nature, he had no choice but to investigate Jack. After finding out that he wasn't bad, he decided to come on this day when he was free. So, there was no way that he could accept the fact that he had wasted his time for nothing. He had to make sure that his granddaughter was happy. As for Jack, as long as he accepted, no, there was no need for him to accept. He had already decided that he was the one going to marry his granddaughter. He was going to give him support to develop himself. With his brilliance, he was sure that he would be able to develop faster. Furthermore, he would have to be the family head of Alfonso family to have a status that could barely qualify to be matched to his granddaughter. Alton's question made Victor almost helpless. After all, they had already expelled Jack from the family. But, after thinking about the things that would happen if this engagement was successful, he gritted his teeth and looked at Dalton, who was seated beside him. "Hurry up and go and fetch that son of yours right at this moment. You better hurry up and bring him back as soon as possible. Don't you keep Master Alton waiting, or I won't forgive you." Victor spoke with a low voice, but his voice contained undeniable command. Dalton nodded his head repeatedly before standing up. After bowing to Alton and the young lady, he rushed out of the mansion. He headed towards the helipad where the helicopter that was used for emergency situations was. He brought alongside him 3 men and the stunned and pale Steve. He was in a hurry as sweat continued trickling on his forehead, as if he had just finished toiling a whole acre of land. After getting into the helicopter, he immediately shouted, "Get us to Inchoate City as soon as possible." "Yes, boss." The pilot responded before starting the helicopter that flew towards Inchoate City at the highest possible speed. Jack had no idea about what had just occurred at the Alfonso mansion, nor did he know that he was about to get engaged to someone. Furthermore, his father was coming for him personally. He just sat there on the couch while waiting for his call to connect. Not long after, a feminine voice came through. "Skyflight Charters here. May I know to whom am I speaking to and what kind of assistance would you like?" The lady asked. "Hello, my name is Jackson. I wanted to hire a pilot of your organization. His name is Gabriel Wadi." Jack stated. "From when do you want him?" The lady asked. "From tomorrow," Jack replied. "A moment, please," the lady said, and a moment later, Jack could hear the sound of a person tapping the keys of a keyboard. Jack didn't have to wait for long as the lady spoke again. "I'm sorry, sir, but pilot Gabriel Wadi has already been booked for tomorrow. He will only be available next week. Can you choose another person, or may I recommend one to you?" Jack frowned the moment that he heard this. He had been to Skyflight Charter's website and hadn't found anyone that impressed him as Gabriel. But now, he was going to fly another person's plane? No way. He had to get this person to be his personal pilot. At the thought of this, he said, "No matter what the price, I want him to fly me tomorrow. Just name it." The lady seemed surprised by the fact that Jack wanted only this person to fly his aircraft. She thought to herself, what's the difference between pilot Gabriel and the other experienced pilots? There's even an experienced pilot than him that's available. Anyway, she didn't dare to say these words out loud as it may sound rude to a customer. In return, if the person filed a complaint about her, she surely would be punished by the upper management. "Mr. Jack, you'll have to understand the situation. It's not that we don't want to have pilot Gabriel Wadi flying you. It's just that he was booked last month for tomorrow. So, it's impossible for us to cancel it," the lady said helplessly. Even Jack knew that it might not be possible for such a big helicopter charter company to cancel bookings that had been made by other customers. But he was just too stubborn for this. "Why don't you just change the pilot for the one that did a booking? There are other pilots that are free at the moment, right?" Jack asked. The lady was really helpless here. So, she could only reply by saying, I'll have to consult my manager first. Please, don't hang up." "Okay," Jack nodded and decided to wait for her to do the consultation.